Greetings everyone, hello and welcome to Chillitorous here. Happy Wednesday. How are we all doing? I hope we are well. It is warm. That is all I have to say. It is warm. Excuse my water bottle noises. Hang on, wait, there's a good water bottle noise. It's like a meditation bell thing. Yes, hello everybody. How are we doing? I hope we are well. Who have we got? Greetings, greetings, greetings everybody. Parola, hello. Lady Mephistopheles, thank you very much indeed for the resubscription. All 42 months. The meaning of life and everything. It's the ultimate yes, that, yeah, I've then read your message. That, yes. You made the joke before me. Also, hello, Shiny Happy Goth. Hope you are well. Queek, greetings. Hope you're doing well. Andy Pants. Ooh, congrats on finishing a 1,000-page book. Get you. Nice. And I hope you're well. Hi, Sam. Thank you for resubscribing. We're just paying our own money back to ourselves. Yes. It'll be a shorter stream tonight because A, it is warm. B, I didn't have too much time to read today. Wait, there's more options? Broadcasting in 720p and set up vertical. How to stream in vertical and horizontal at the same time with dual format. I haven't even looked about. Excuse me. I haven't even looked at these new things on Twitch. We don't want those options. Yeah, what options do we want? It's 720 and it's vertical setup. What do I want? Short streams for short people, exactly. Short people. Hey, Small Cog. Hope you're well. Yes, it's very warm, and in order for me to be able to read a book, I need light. In order for me to, my light is currently not on. Unclicked for now. Yes, I haven't touched them. That's just what it's naturally done, apparently. Yes, it's warm, and if I turn my lights on, I mean, I will have to at some point, then I get all of the bitey things flying into my room and biting me, and waking me up, because I am a light sleeper and I have stupid hearing, which means that if even the tiniest little mosquito just flies anywhere near me halfway through the night, I leap up like, I don't know, I've been jump scared or something. Sam will attest to this, as I woke him up several times. Whoopsie. It's like, it's that. It's so annoying. Jumps up like a person in a film who's just woken up in bed. Yeah, yes, that. So yes, I don't think I'll last too long in the temperature that my room currently is, without my windows open. So yeah, it's just going to be a couple of little stories tonight, but they're Russian short stories, and Russian short stories are generally pretty good. It is a horrible noise, I agree. Yeah, it's would not recommend. I'm going to have to turn my light on now. No. Okay. So you could say are you going to say rushing? There we go, rushing through them. Very good, 10 out of 10. Everybody give Sam a round of applause, please. But yes, evoking the chill of the Russian winter to beat the heat. Yes, that's exactly what I'm doing, Andy Pants. That was exactly thought through. Oh, Sam's giving himself a round of applause. Oh dear. This goes to show how sad the guy is. You don't get itchy bites, so you're not bothered with actual biting. I don't. Well, it depends. I don't usually get bitten that much, but some things are just infuriating. So, yeah. You get painful bites more than itchy. Yeah, I think mine are more like that. But yes. Do I have any fun news or stories? Sam and I made friends with some crows yesterday. Well, a crow. We were having a picnic and we threw the crow some nibbly bits, and the crow was very happy with the fact that we did that. There was another crow that was a little bit more skittish, but this crow, we sort of gave it enough food. It obviously went and stashed it somewhere, and then we were just sitting there, and then I just looked up in the tree that we were sitting underneath, and there it was again, poking its head through the branches, gave us a couple of caws, and was like, oh, all right, okay, you want more food. It was very sweet. Yeah, we want to make friends with the crows. Crows are great. It was a very friendly crow. And we have... Ooh, for itchy bites, try heating a spoon up by sticking it in hot water and nearly too hot to touch it and press it to the bite. Ooh! Interesting. So not hot enough to burn yourself, I assume, but hot enough to break things down. That is... I did not know that. I will have to try that, Shiny Happy Girl. Thank you for the remedy. Yeah, interesting. Any other interesting things? We have started... Well, I say we started. We're... How many seasons in, Sam? 2? Watching Shorzy. We got... we get gay Canadian hockey show. No, not that one. The other one. No. The other one, yeah. No, yeah, we've been watching Shorzy and thoroughly enjoying it. It's surprisingly wholesome and very entertaining. And of course, we watched. Maybe I said this last. Was I streaming last? I don't even know. I don't know where I am. What's going on? We watched Widow's Bay. For anybody who hasn't watched Widow's Bay, watch Widow's Bay. It's brilliant. Like, proper good. Like, the perfect blend of comedy and horror. Like, yeah. We, like, the comedy was there, and then we got to, it was like episode 4 or something, and then it was like, oh no, this is just really good horror as well. Like, this is top tier. I don't think... Like, there have been very few shows that both of us have, like, actually full-on laughed out loud, like, reliably several times an episode that aren't, like, specifically just comedies. I can't think of any shows recently that have made us really guffaw in the way that Widow's Bay did, and also like certainly give me nightmares, but in a good way. Like, yeah, it is exquisite. The writing is brilliant. The acting is incredible. It is weirdly moving. Yeah, strong recommendation there. Yes, Sam is considering maybe trying to fit a Widow's Bay watch along during book week. Yes. Yes, so good. It's so good. Week will be upon us sooner than we realise. So yeah. We are sort of in the loose planning stages of that, realising suddenly that, oh yeah, we need to do that. Any plans for week? Nothing concrete yet. We'll try and get stuff up like in the next week or so. Once we finalise things. One of the things we think we would like to do is another Choose Your Own Adventure thing with Dave. But we need to get the Dave available for that. So that's a possibility. And then yeah, we have other things we do need to talk to Dave about that. I mean, I assume he'll probably be up for it, but we need to like work out dates and all that stuff. But yes, we have vague plans. Vague plans will hopefully become concrete plans within the next like week or two, and we'll put the usual schedule and stuff up on the Discord, etc. etc. More like Fweek than Bweek. Oh yeah, film week than yes. Yeah, maybe you should do your own film week, Sam. We need to have some kind of literature here, not just films. Fweek is also a good idea. Yeah, it is. Mystery literacy is slowly morphing into movie literacy. Yeah, this is the problem of having Sam in it. Films happen. Media literacy, exactly. We could do a film week. Porque no los dos. Words, yes, exactly that. Yeah. We'll let you guys know. Obviously. Is there anything else? Have I been reading anything? Not really. I can't remember what I said or when. I didn't stream last week, did I? Or did I? I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. Maybe I did stream last week. I didn't. Sorry for lack of streams. Things are... yeah. I'm not as busy as I was, but just things happen. And time is still something I am constantly just trying to get a hold of. But yes, I have been reading a book called The Oak and the Larch, which I think maybe I said it on a Monday stream or something. But anyway, Oak and the Larch by what's her name? Sophie Pinkham. Would recommend. It's a non-fiction book about the history of Russia's forests, and it's very, very interesting. And Diana lent it to me. So yeah, would strongly recommend. Really interesting book. About just like Russia's history with its forests and how sort of intertwined they are with the culture and with Russian history in all forms, really, not just cultural history, but just political history, all that kind of stuff. Very interesting. Which kind of leads us on to tonight's stories. I've got a couple of short Russian short stories. I might not have a break tonight. I might just go straight through because these aren't particularly long. But we have some Chekhov to start with, which is always good. We do like some Chekhov. I should read more Chekhov. And like Pushkin and what are the other ones? Tolstoy. I can't remember. Oh, excuse me. Basically all of the Russian authors. All the famous ones, anyway. They is good. Yeah. Oh, Sam and I have... I don't know whether... Sam and I have now watched Project Hail Mary, by the way. All of the Russian authors. All of them. Yeah, that's all I'm going to say, Sam. You can start a discussion in the Discord if you want. We also watched something else. What else did we watch? We watched another film, did we not? Well, we watched Blade Runner 2049. But was there another one? Am I imagining things? We didn't hate it. No, we didn't hate it. Sam is not going to speak for me, but he thought it was fine. Yeah. That was also my take. It was fine. It was pretty. And it was funny. Anyway, let's not get into this discussion now. You can shout at us in the Discord if you want. Just everybody seems to love it, and we were just like, oh, okay. Anyway, if we are all sitting comfortably, if we have some kind of, I was going to say hot beverage, no, cool beverage, for 'tis warm, then we will begin with the first of our 2 short stories for tonight. It is pinned at the top of chat, should you wish to read along. But yes, we shall begin with In Exile by Anton Chekhov. Old Simeon, nicknamed Wiseacre, and a young Tartar, whose name no one knew, were sitting on the bank of the river by a wood fire. The other 3 ferrymen were in the hut. Simeon, who was an old man of about 60, gaunt and toothless, but broad-shouldered and robust, was drunk. He would long ago have gone to bed, but he had a bottle in his pocket, and feared lest his comrades ask him for vodka. The Tartar was ill and miserable, and, pulling his rags about him, he went on talking about the good things in the province of Simbursk, and what a beautiful and clever wife he had left at home. He was not more than 25, and now, by the light of the wood fire, with his pale, sorrowful, sickly face, he looked a mere boy. "Of course it's not a paradise here," said Wiseacre. "You see water, the bare bushes by the river, clay everywhere. Nothing else. It is long past Easter, and there is still ice on the water, and this morning there was snow." "Wretched, wretched," said the Tartar with a haunted look. A few yards away flowed the dark, cold river, muttering, dashing against the holes in the clay bank as it tore along to the distant sea. By the bank on which they were sitting loomed a great barge, which the ferrymen call a karbass. Far away and away, flashing out, flaring up, were fires crawling like snakes, last year's grass being burned. And behind the water again was darkness. Little banks of ice could be heard knocking against the barge. It was very damp and cold. The Tartar glanced at the sky. There were as many stars at home, and the darkness was the same, but something was lacking. At home in the Simbursk province, the stars and the sky were quite different. "Bad, bad," he repeated. "You'll get used to it," said Wiseacre with a laugh. "You are young yet and foolish. The milk is hardly dry on your lips, and in your folly you imagine that there is no one unhappier than you. But there will come a time when you will say, 'God grant everyone such a life.' Just look at me. In a week's time the floods will be gone, and we will fix a ferry here, and all of you will go away into Siberia, and I shall stay here, going to and fro. I have been living thus for the last 22 years, but, thank God, I want nothing. God grant everyone such a life." The Tartar threw some branches onto the fire, crawled near to it, and said, "My father is ill. When he dies, my mother and my wife have promised to come here." "What do you want your mother and your wife for?" asked Wiseacre. "Just foolishness, my friend. It's the devil tempting you, plague take him. Don't listen to the evil one, don't give way to him. When he talks to you about women, you should answer him sharply, 'I don't want them.' When he talks of freedom, you should stick to it and say, 'I don't want it. I want nothing. No father, no mother, no wife, no freedom, no home, no love. I want nothing. Plague take 'em all." Wiseacre took a swig at his bottle and went on, "My brother, I am not an ordinary peasant. I don't come from the servile masses. I am the son of a deacon, and when I was a free man at Rursk, I used to wear a frock coat. and now I have brought myself to such a point that I can sleep naked on the ground and eat grass. God grant everyone such a life. I want nothing. I am afraid of nobody, and I think there is no man richer or freer than I. When they sent me here from Russia, I set my teeth at once and said, I want nothing. The devil whispers to me about my wife and my kindred, and about freedom, and I say to him, I want nothing. I stuck to it, and, you see, I live happily and have nothing to grumble at. If a man gives the devil the least chance and listens to him just once, then he is lost and has no hope of salvation. He will be over ears in the mire and will never get out. Not only peasants the like of you are lost, but the well-born and the educated too. About 15 years ago, a certain nobleman was banished here from Russia. He had had some trouble with his brothers and had made a forgery in a will. People said he was a prince or a baron, but maybe he was only a high official. Who knows? Well, he came here and at once bought a house and land in Maxim. I want to live by my own work, said he, in the sweat of my brow, because I am no longer a nobleman but an exile. Why, said I, God help you, for that is good. He was a young man then, fiery and eager. He used to mow and go fishing, and he would ride 60 miles on horseback. Only one thing was wrong. From the very start he was always driving to the post office at Gairin. He used to sit in my boat and sigh, Ah, Simeon, it is a long time since they sent me any money from home. You are better without money, Vasily Andreich, said I. What is the good of it? You just fling away the past as if it had never happened, as if it were only a dream, and start life afresh. Don't listen to the devil, I said. He won't do you any good, and he will only tighten the noose. You want money now, but in a little while you will want something else, and then again something else. If, said I, you want to be happy, you must want nothing. That's it. If, I said, fate has been hard on you and me, it is no good asking her for charity and falling at her feet. We must ignore her and make mock of her. That's what I said to him. 2 years later I ferried him over, and he rubbed his hands and laughed. I'm going, said he, to Gairin to meet my wife. She has taken pity on me, she says, and she is coming here. She is very kind and good. And he gave a gasp of joy. Then one day he came with his wife, a beautiful young lady with a little girl in her arms and a lot of luggage. And Vasily Andreich kept turning and looking at her, and could not look at her or praise her enough. Yes, Simeon, my friend, even in Siberia people live. Well, thought I, all right, it won't last. And from that time on, mark you, he used to go to Gairin every week to find out if money had been sent from Russia. A big heap of money was wasted. She stays here, said he, for my sake, and her youth and beauty wither away here in Siberia. She shares my bitter lot with me, said he, and I must give her all the pleasure I can afford. To make his wife happier, he took up with the officials and any kind of riff-raff. And they couldn't have company without giving food and drink, and they must have a piano and a fluffy little dog on the sofa. Luxury, in a word, and all kinds of silliness. The lady did not stay with him long. How could she? Clay, water, cold, no vegetables, no fruit, uneducated people and drunkards, coarse as you make 'em, and she was a pretty pampered young lady from the big city. To be sure, she got bored. And her husband was no longer a gentleman, but an exile, quite another thing. 3 years later, I remember, on the eve of the Assumption, I heard shouts from the other bank. I went over in the ferry and saw the lady, all bundled up, with a young gentleman, a government official, in a troika. I ferried them across, and they got into the carriage, and off they went, and I saw no more of them. Toward the morning, Vasily Andreich came racing up in a coach and pair. "Has my wife been across, Simeon, with a gentleman in spectacles?" "She has," said I, "but you might as well look for the wind in the fields." He chased after them and kept it up for 5 days and nights. When he came back, he jumped onto the ferry and began to knock his head against the side and to cry aloud. "You see," said I, "there you are." And I laughed and reminded him, "Even in Siberia people live." But he went on beating his head all the harder. Then he began to yearn for freedom. His wife had gone to Russia, and he longed to go there to see her and take her away from her lover. And he went to the post office every day, and then to the authorities of the town. He was always sending applications or personally handing them to the authorities, asking them to have his term remitted and to be allowed to go, and he told me that he had spent over 200 rubles on telegrams. He sold his land and mortgaged his house to the moneylenders. His hair went grey, he grew round-shouldered, and his face got yellow and consumptive-looking. He used to cough whenever he spoke, and tears would come into his eyes. He spent 8 years on his applications, and at last he became cheerful again and lively. He had thought of a new consolation. His daughter, you see, had grown up. He doted on her and couldn't take his eyes off her. And it's a fact, she was mighty pretty, dark and clever. Every Sunday he used to go to church with her at Gairin. They would stand side by side on the ferry, and she would smile, and he would devour her with his eyes. "Yes, Simeon," he would say, "even in Siberia people live. Even in Siberia there is happiness. Look what a fine daughter I have. You wouldn't find one like her in 1,000 miles' journey." "She's a nice girl," said I. "Oh, yes." And I thought to myself, you wait. She is young. Young blood will have its way. She wants to live, and what life is there here? And she began to pine away. Wasting away. She withered away, fell ill and had to keep to her bed. Consumption. That's Siberian happiness. Plague take it, that's Siberian life. He rushed all over the place after the doctors and dragged them home with him. If he heard of a doctor or a quack 300 miles off, he would rush off after him. He spent a mighty big lot of money on doctors, and, in my opinion, it would have been much better spent on drink. All the same, she'll die. No help for it. Then it was all up with him. He thought of hanging himself, and of trying to escape to Russia. That would be the end of him. He would try to escape. He would be caught, tried, penal servitude, flogging. Good, muttered the Tartar with a shiver. What is good? Asked Wiseacre. Wife and daughter. What does penal servitude and suffering matter? He saw his wife and daughter. You say one should want nothing, but nothing is evil. His wife spent 3 years with him. God granted him that. Nothing is evil, and 3 years is good. Can't you see it? Trembling and stammering as he groped for Russian words, of which he knew only a few, the Tartar began to say, God forbid he should fall ill among strangers, and die and be buried in the cold, sodden earth, and then, if his wife could come to him, if only for 1 day, or even for 1 hour, he would gladly endure any torture for such happiness, and would even thank God. Better 1 day of happiness than nothing. Then once more he said what a beautiful, clever wife he had left at home, and with his head in his hands he began to cry, assuring Simeon that he was innocent and had been falsely accused. His 2 brothers and his uncle had stolen some horses from a peasant and beaten the old man nearly to death, and the community never investigated the affair at all, and judgment was passed by which all 3 brothers were exiled to Siberia, while his uncle, a rich man, remained at home. You'll get used to it, said Simeon. The Tartar relapsed into silence and stared into the fire with eyes red from weeping. He looked perplexed and frightened, as if he could not understand why he was in the cold and the darkness, among strangers, and not in the province of Simbirsk. Wiseacre lay down near the fire, smiled at something, and began to say in an undertone, "But what a joy she must be to your father," he muttered after a pause. "He loves her, and she is a comfort to him, eh? But, my man, don't tell me. He is a strict, harsh old man, and girls don't want strictness. They want kisses and laughter, scents and pomade. Yes. Ah, what a life." Simeon swore. "No vodka left. That means it's time to go to bed. I must be going." Left alone, the Tartar threw more branches on the fire, lay down, and, looking into the blaze, began to think of his native village and of his wife. If she could come back, if but for a month, or even a day, and then, if she liked, go back again. Better a month or even a day than nothing. But even if his wife came, how could he provide for her? Where was she to live? "If there is nothing to eat, how are we to live?" asked the Tartar aloud. For working at the oars day and night he was paid 2 kopecks a day. The passengers gave tips, but the ferryman shared them out and gave nothing to the Tartar, and only laughed at him. And he was poor, cold, hungry and afraid. With his whole body aching and shivering, he thought it would be good to go into the hut and sleep, but there was nothing to cover himself with, and it was colder there than on the bank. He had nothing to cover himself with there, but he could make up a fire. In a week's time, when the floods had subsided and the ferry would be fixed up, all the ferrymen except Simeon would not be wanted any longer, and the Tartar would be forced to go from village to village, begging and looking for work. His wife was only 17, beautiful, soft and shy. Could she go unveiled begging through the villages? No! The idea of it was revolting. It was already dawning. The barges, the bushy willows above the water, the swirling flood began to take shape, and up above in a clayey cliff a hut thatched with straw, and above that the straggling houses of the village where the cocks had begun to crow. The ginger-coloured clay cliff, the barge, the river, the strange wild people, hunger, cold, illness. Perhaps all these things did not really exist. Perhaps, thought the Tartar, it was only a dream. He felt that he must be asleep, and he heard his own snoring. Of course, he was at home in the Simbirsk province. He had but to call his wife and she would reply, and his mother was in the next room. What awful dreams there are. Why? The Tartar smiled and opened his eyes. What river was that? The Volga? It was snowing. "Hi, ferry!" someone shouted from the opposite bank. "Karbas!" The Tartar awoke and went to fetch his companions to row over to the other side. Hurrying into their sheepskins, swearing sleepily in hoarse voices and shivering from the cold, the 4 men appeared on the bank. After their sleep, the river, from which there came a piercing blast, seemed to them horrible and loathsome. They stepped slowly into the barge. The Tartar and the 3 ferrymen took the long, broad-bladed oars, which in the dim light looked like a crab's claw, and Simeon flung himself with his belly against the tiller. And on the other side the voice kept on shouting, and a revolver was fired twice. For the man probably thought the ferrymen were asleep or gone to the village inn. "All right, plenty of time," said Wiseacre, in the tone of one who was sure that there is no need for hurry in this world, and indeed there is no reason for it. The heavy, clumsy barge left the bank and heaved through the willows, and by the willows slowly receding it was possible to tell that the barge was moving. The ferryman plied the oars with a slow, measured stroke. Wiseacre hung over the tiller with his stomach pressed against it and swung from side to side. In the dim light they looked like men sitting on some antediluvian animal with long limbs, swimming out to a cold, dismal nightmare land. They got clear of the willows and swung out into midstream. The thud of the oars and the splash could be heard on the other bank, and shouts came, "Hurry! Hurry!" After another 10 minutes, the barge bumped clumsily against the landing stage. "And it is still snowing, always snowing," Simeon murmured, wiping the snow from his face. "God knows where it comes from." On the other side, a tall, gaunt old man was waiting in a short fox-fur coat and a white astrakhan hat. He stood stock-still some distance from his horses. He had a severe, concentrated expression, as if he were trying to remember something and were angry with his uncompliant memory. When Simeon went up to him and took off his hat with a smile, he said, "I'm in a hurry to get to Anastasievka. My daughter is worse again, and they tell me there's a new doctor at Anastasievka." The coach was clamped onto the barge, and they rode back. All the while, as they rode, the man, whom Simeon called Vasily Andreich, stood motionless, pressing his thin lips tight and staring in front of him. When the driver asked for leave to smoke in his presence, he did not reply, as if he did not hear. And Simeon hung over the rudder and looked at him mockingly and said, "Even in Siberia people live. On Wiseacre's face was an expression of triumph, as if he were proving something, as if pleased that things had happened just as he thought they would. The unhappy, helpless look of the man in the fox-fur coat seemed to give him considerable pleasure. "The roads are now muddy, Vasily Andreich," he said when the horses had been harnessed on the bank. "You'd better wait a couple of weeks until it gets drier, if there were any point in going. But you know yourself that people are always on the move day and night, and there's no point in it. Sure." Vasily Andreich said nothing, gave him a tip, took his seat in the coach, and drove away. "Look, he's gone galloping after the doctor," said Simeon, shivering in the cold. "Yes, to look for a real doctor, trying to overtake the wind in the fields and catch the devil by the tail, plague take him. What strange fish there are. God forgive me, a miserable sinner." The Tartar went up to Wiseacre and, peering at him with mingled hatred and disgust, and mixing Tartar words up with his broken Russian, said with a quaver, Good, and you... bad, you are bad. The gentleman is a good soul, very good, and you are a beast, you are bad. The gentleman is alive, and you are dead. God made man that he should be alive, that he should have joy, sorrow, grief, and you want nothing, so you are not alive, but a stone. A stone wants nothing, and you want nothing. You are a stone, and God does not love you, but the gentleman he loves." They all laughed. The Tartar fiercely knit his brows, waved his hand, drew his rags around him, and went to the fire. The ferryman and Simeon went slowly to the hut. "It's cold," said one of the ferrymen hoarsely as he lay down on the straw with which the damp clay floor was covered. "Yes, it's not warm," another acquiesced. "It's a hard life." All of them lay down. The wind blew the door open. Snow drifted into the hut. No one could bring himself to get up and shut the door. It was cold, but they put up with it. "And I am happy," muttered Simeon as he fell asleep. "God grant everyone such a life." "You surely are the devil's own. Even the devil needn't bother to take you." Sounds like the barking of a dog came from outside. "Who is that? Who is there?" "It's the Tartar crying." "Oh. He is an odd one." "He'll get used to it," said Simeon, and soon fell asleep. Soon the others slept too, and the door was left open. The end. Thank you for listening to that one. I'm on the Tartars' side here. Like, I get wanting for nothing, like if you want things, then it's going to make you unhappy, but also, like, memories and remembering the better times and stuff is probably good. I don't know. I've never been in exile in Siberia, so who could say? Oh, the text I linked is a different translation. Oh, really? Oh, I didn't realise that. Ah. Interesting. Was it a big difference, or is it just sort of little, like, differences in yeah, wiseacre. At least I assume that's how one pronounces it. That's how I pronounced it. Same, just a lot of different phrasing. Ah, neat. Yeah, I feel like this is probably an old translation. This is from my big book of short stories, so called Canny. Oh, interesting. Yeah. But yes, I like the description of the flame, the snakes of flame burning last year's grass. I think that's quite nice. But right, let's get the next one thingied up. There will be another version that's closer. Doesn't actually say who that. Does it say? Oh, here we go. No. Yes. Yeah. Translated by John Corno. That's what this was. It's from this particular translation is from A Treasury of Russian Life and Humour. Wouldn't say it's necessarily humour. By Coward McCann Inc. There we go. Anyway, this is... I don't know if this will be the same translation then. I'm not sure. We shall see. Russian humour, yeah. Russian humour being a bit, you know... cheerful, she says. But yeah, we'll do... Yeah, we'll do the next one. We'll finish a bit early. Methinks. But yeah. Excuse me. I apologise in advance if... Oh no, this one doesn't have as many... No, this one doesn't have as many Russian words and things, so I'll be fine. I have no idea if I pronounced anything in that previous one correctly. So, yeah. But we shall continue. I have thingied the text at the top of chat with the next story and the last one for tonight, because I'm getting very warm. And yeah, definitely like manifesting, you know, cooler weather, because this next one is called One Autumn Night. Oh, you found the previous one. Oh, well done. Nice. This is from Best Russian Short Stories, if that helps in terms of translation wise. Let me just... Oh yeah, this is a different translation as well. Yeah, I'll read from the one I've got, but this is a slightly different translation as well. So, if we're all sitting comfortably, I shall continue with One Autumn Night by Maxim Gorky. Once in the autumn, I happened to be in a very unpleasant and inconvenient position. In the town where I had just arrived and where I knew not a soul, I found myself without a farthing in my pocket and without a night's lodging. Having sold during the first few days every part of my costume without which it was still possible to go about, I passed from the town into the quarter called Yitze, where were the steamship wharves, a quarter which during the navigation season fermented with boisterous, laborious life, but was now silent and deserted, for we were in the last days of October. Dragging my feet along the moist sand, and obstinately scrutinizing it with the desire to discover in it any sort of fragment of food, I wandered alone among the deserted buildings and warehouses, and thought how good it would be to get a full meal. In our present state of culture, hunger of the mind is more quickly satisfied than hunger of the body. You wander about the streets. You are surrounded by buildings not bad-looking from the outside and, you may safely say it, not so badly furnished inside, and the sight of them may excite within you stimulating ideas about architecture, hygiene, and many other wise and high-flying subjects. You may meet warmly and neatly dressed folks, all very polite, and turning away from you tactfully, not wishing offensively to notice the lamentable fact of your existence. Well, the mind of a hungry man is always better nourished and healthier than the mind of the well-fed man. And there you have a situation from which you may draw a very ingenious conclusion in favour of the ill-fed. The evening was approaching. The rain was falling, and the wind blew violently from the north. It whistled in the empty booths and shops, blew into the plastered window-panes of the taverns, and whipped into foam the wavelets of the river which splashed noisily on the sandy shore, casting high their white crests, racing one after another into the dim distance, and leaping impetuously over one another's shoulders. It seemed as if the river felt the proximity of winter, and was running at random away from the fetters of ice which the north wind might well have flung upon her that very night. The sky was heavy and dark. Down from it swept incessantly scarcely visible drops of rain, and the melancholy elegy in nature all around me was emphasized by a couple of battered and misshapen willow trees and a boat, bottom upwards, that was fastened to their roots. The overturned canoe with its battered keel, and the miserable old trees rifled by the cold wind, everything around me was bankrupt, barren and dead, and the sky flowed with undryable tears. Everything around was waste and gloomy. It seemed as if everything were dead, leaving me alone among the living, and for me also a cold death waited. I was then 18 years old, a good time. I walked and walked along the cold, wet sand, making my chattering teeth warble in honour of cold and hunger, when suddenly, as I was carefully searching for something to eat behind one of the empty crates, I perceived behind it, crouching on the ground, a figure in woman's clothes, dank with the rain and clinging fast to her stooping shoulders. Standing over her, I watched to see what she was doing. It appeared that she was digging a trench in the sand with her hands, digging away under one of the crates. "Why are you doing that?" I asked, crouching down on my heels quite close to her. She gave a little scream and was quickly on her legs again. Now that she stood there staring at me, with her wide-open grey eyes full of terror, I perceived that it was a girl of my own age, with a very pleasant face, embellished unfortunately by 3 large blue marks. This spoiled her, although these blue marks had been distributed with a remarkable sense of proportion, one at a time, and all were of equal size, 2 under the eyes and 1 a little bigger on the forehead just over the bridge of the nose. This symmetry was evidently the work of an artist well inured to the business of spoiling the human physiognomy. The girl looked at me, and the terror in her eyes gradually died out. She shook the sand from her hands, adjusted her cotton headgear, cowered down and said, "I suppose you too want something to eat." "Dig away then. My hands are tired." "Over there," she nodded her head in the direction of a booth, "there is bread for certain, and sausages too. That booth is still carrying on business." I began to dig. She, after waiting a little and looking at me, sat down beside me and began to help me. We worked in silence. I cannot say now whether I thought at that moment of the criminal code, of morality, of proprietorship, and all the other things about which, in the opinion of many experienced persons, one ought to think every moment of one's life. Wishing to keep as close to the truth as possible, I must confess that apparently I was so deeply engaged in digging under the crate that I completely forgot about everything else except this one thing. What could be inside that crate? The evening drew on. The grey, mouldy, cold fog grew thicker and thicker around us. The waves roared with a hollower sound than before, and the rain pattered down on the boards of that crate more loudly and more frequently. Somewhere or other the night watchman began springing his rattle. "Has it got a bottom or not?" softly inquired my assistant. I did not understand what she was talking about, and I kept silence. "I say, has the crate got a bottom? If it has, we shall try in vain to break into it. Here we are digging a trench, and we may, after all, come upon nothing but solid boards. How shall we take them off?" "Better smash the lock. It is a wretched lock." Good ideas rarely visit the heads of women, but as you see, they do visit them sometimes. I have always valued good ideas, and have always tried to utilise them as far as possible. Having found the lock, I tugged at it and wrenched off the whole thing. My accomplice immediately stooped down and wriggled like a serpent into the gaping open 4-cornered cover of the crate, whence she called to me approvingly, in a low tone, "You're a brick." Nowadays, a little crumb of praise from a woman is dearer to me than a whole dithram from a man, even though he be more eloquent than all the ancient and modern orators put together. Then, however, I was less amiably disposed than I am now, and paying no attention to the compliment of my comrade, I asked her curtly and anxiously, "Is there anything?" In a monotonous tone she set about calculating our discoveries. "A basket full of bottles, thick furs, a sunshade, an iron pail." All this was uneatable. I felt that my hopes had vanished, but suddenly she exclaimed vivaciously, "Aha! Here it is!" "What?" "Bread! A loaf, it's only wet. Take it." A loaf flew to my feet, and after it herself, my valiant comrade. I had already bitten off a morsel, stuffed it into my mouth, and was chewing it. "Come, give me some too. And we mustn't stay here. Where shall we go?" She looked inquiringly about on all sides. It was dark, wet, and boisterous. "Look, there's an upset canoe yonder. Let us go there." "Let us go, then." And off we set, demolishing our booty as we went, and filling our mouths with large portions of it. The rain grew more violent. The river roared. From somewhere or other resounded a prolonged mocking whistle, just as if someone great who feared nobody was whistling down all earthly institutions, and along with them this horrid autumnal wind and us, its heroes. This whistling made my heart throb painfully, in spite of which I greedily went on eating, and in this respect the girl, walking on my left hand, kept even pace with me. "What do they call you?" I asked her. Why, I know not. "Natasha," she answered shortly, munching loudly. I stared at her. My heart ached within me, and then I stared into the mist before me, and it seemed to me as if the inimical countenance of my destiny was smiling at me enigmatically and coldly. The rain scourged the timbers of the skiff incessantly, and its soft patter induced melancholy thoughts, and the wind whistled as it flew down into the boat's battered bottom through a rift where some loose splinters of wood were rattling together, a disquieting and depressing sound. The waves of the river were splashing on the shore, and sounded so monotonous and hopeless, just as if they were telling something unbearably dull and heavy, which was boring them into utter disgust, something from which they wanted to run away, and yet were obliged to talk about all the same. The sound of the rain blended with their splashing, and a long-drawn sigh seemed to be floating above the overturned skiff, the endless, labouring sigh of the earth, injured and exhausted by the eternal changes from the bright and warm summer to the cold, misty and damp autumn. The wind blew continually over the desolate shore and the foaming river, blew and sang its melancholy songs. Our position beneath the shelter of the skiff was utterly devoid of comfort. It was narrow and damp. Tiny cold drops of rain dribbled through the damaged bottom. Gusts of wind penetrated it. We sat in silence and shivered with cold. I remembered that I wanted to go to sleep. Natasha leaned her back against the hull of the boat and curled herself up into a tiny ball. Embracing her knees with her hands and resting her chin upon them, she stared doggedly at the river with wide-open eyes. On the pale patch of her face they seemed immense because of the blue marks below them. She never moved, and this immobility and silence, I felt it, gradually produced within me a terror of my neighbour. I wanted to talk to her, but I knew not how to begin. It was she herself who spoke. "What a cursed thing life is," she exclaimed plainly, abstractedly, and in a tone of deep conviction. But this was no complaint. In these words there was too much of indifference for a complaint. This simple soul thought according to her understanding, thought and proceeded to form a certain conclusion which she expressed aloud, and which I could not confute for fear of contradicting myself. Therefore I was silent, and she, as if she had not noticed me, continued to sit there immovable. Even if we croaked, what then? Natasha began again, this time quietly and reflectively, and still there was not one note of complaint in her words. It was plain that this person, in the course of her reflections on life, was regarding her own case, and had arrived at the conviction that, in order to preserve herself from the mockeries of life, she was not in a position to do anything else but simply croak, to use her own expression. The clearness of this line of thought was inexpressibly sad and painful to me, and I felt that if I kept my silence any longer I was really bound to weep, and it would have been shameful to have done that before a woman, especially as she was not weeping herself. I resolved to speak to her. "Who was it that knocked you about?" I asked. For the moment I could not think of anything more sensible or more delicate. "Pashka did it all," she answered in a dull and level tone. "And who is he?" "My lover. He was a baker." "Did he beat you often?" "Whenever he was drunk he beat me." "Often. and suddenly, turning toward me, she began to talk about herself, Pashka, and their mutual relations. He was a baker with red moustaches and played very well on the banjo. He came to see her and greatly pleased her, for he was a merry chap and wore nice clean clothes. He had a vest which cost 15 roubles and boots with dress tops. For these reasons she had fallen in love with him, and he became her creditor. And when he became her creditor, he made it his business to take away from her the money which her other friends gave to her for bonbons, and getting drunk on this money, he would fall to beating her. But that would have been nothing if he hadn't also begun to run after other girls before her very eyes. Now, wasn't that an insult? I'm not worse than the others. Of course that meant he was laughing at me, the blackguard. The day before yesterday I asked leave of my mistress to go out for a bit, went to him, and there I found Dimka sitting beside him drunk, and he too was half-seas over. I said, "You scoundrel, you!" and he gave me a thorough hiding. He kicked me and dragged me by the hair, but that was nothing to what came after. He spoiled everything I had on, left me just as I am now. How could I appear before my mistress? He spoiled everything, my dress and my jacket too. It was quite a new one, I gave a £5 for it, and tore my kerchief from my head. Oh, Lord, what will become of me now? She suddenly whined in a lamentable, overstrained voice. The wind howled and became ever colder and more boisterous. Again my teeth began to dance up and down, and she, huddled up to avoid the cold, pressed as closely to me as she could, so that I could see the gleam of her eyes through the darkness. What wretches all you men are! I'd burn you all in an oven, I'd cut you in pieces. If any one of you was dying, I'd spit in his mouth and not pity him a bit. Mean skunks! You wheedle and wheedle, you wag your tails like cringing dogs, and we fools give ourselves up to you, and it's all up with us. Immediately you trample us underfoot. Miserable loafers. She cursed us up and down, but there was no vigour, no malice, no hatred of these miserable loafers in her cursing that I could hear. The tone of her language was by no means corresponded with its subject matter, for it was calm enough, and the gamut of her voice was terribly poor. Yet all this made a stronger impression on me than the most eloquent and convincing pessimistic books and speeches, of which I had read a good many, and which I still read to this day. And this, you see, was because the agony of a dying person is much more natural and violent than the most minute and picturesque descriptions of death. I felt really wretched, more from cold than from the words of my neighbour. I groaned softly and ground my teeth. Almost at the same moment, I felt 2 little arms about me. One of them touched my neck, and the other lay upon my face, and at the same time an anxious, gentle, friendly voice uttered this question: "What ails you?" I was ready to believe that someone else was asking me this, and not Natasha, who had just declared that all men were scoundrels and expressed a wish for their destruction. But she it was. And now she began speaking quickly, hurriedly. "What ails you, eh? Are you cold? Are you frozen? Ah, what a one you are, sitting there so silent like a little owl. Why, you should have told me long ago that you were cold. Come, lie on the ground, stretch yourself out, and I will lie there. How's that? Now put your arms around me. Tighter. How's that? You shall be warm very soon now, and then we'll lie back to back. The night will pass so quickly, see if it won't. I say, have you too been drinking? Turned out of your place, eh? It doesn't matter." And she comforted me. She encouraged me. May I be thrice accursed. What a world of irony was in this single fact for me. Just imagine, here was I, seriously occupied at this very time with the destiny of humanity, thinking of the reorganisation of the social system, of political revolutions, reading all sorts of devilishly wise books whose abysmal profundity was certainly unfathomable by their very authors. At this very time, I say, I was trying with all my might to make of myself a potent, active social force. It even seemed to me that I had partially accomplished my object. Anyhow, at this time, in my ideas about myself, I had got so far as to recognise that I had an exclusive right to exist, that I had the necessary greatness to deserve to live my life, and that I was fully competent to play a great historical part therein. And a woman was now warming me with her body, a wretched, battered, hunted creature who had no place and no value in life, and whom I had never thought of helping till she helped me herself, and whom I really would not have known how to help in any way, even if the thought of it had occurred to me. I was ready to think that all this was happening to me in a dream, in a disagreeable and oppressive dream. But, it was impossible for me to think that, for cold drops of rain were dripping down upon me. The woman was pressing close to me, her warm breath was fanning my face, and, despite a slight odour of vodka, it did me good. The wind howled and raged, the rain smote upon the skiff, the waves splashed, and both of us, embracing each other convulsively, nevertheless shivered with cold. All this was only too real, and I am certain that nobody ever dreamed such an oppressive and horrid dream as that reality. But Natasha was talking all the time of something or other, talking kindly and sympathetically, as only women can talk. Beneath the influence of her voice and kindly words, a little fire began to burn up within me, and something inside my heart thawed in consequence. Then tears poured from my eyes like a hailstorm, washing away from my heart much that was evil, much that was stupid, much sorrow and dirt which had fastened upon it before that night. Natasha comforted me. "Come, come, that'll do, little one. Don't take on. That'll do. God will give you another chance. You will right yourself and stand in your proper place again, and it will be all right." And she kept kissing me. Many kisses did she give me, burning kisses, and all for nothing. Those were the first kisses from a woman that had ever been bestowed upon me, and they were the best kisses too, for all the subsequent kisses cost me frightfully dear, and really gave me nothing at all in exchange. "Come, don't take on so, funny one. I'll manage for you tomorrow if you cannot find a place." Her quiet, persuasive whispering sounded in my ears as if it came through a dream. There we lay till dawn. And when the dawn came, we crept from behind the skiff and went into the town. Then we took a friendly leave of each other, and never met again, although for half a year I searched in every hole and corner for that kind Natasha, with whom I spent the autumn night I just described. Excuse me. If she be already dead, and well for her if it was so, may she rest in peace. And if she be alive, still I say peace to her soul, and may the consciousness of her fall never enter her soul, for that would be a superfluous and fruitless suffering if life is to be lived. The end. Thank you for listening. Maybe this guy will change his opinions on women after that encounter. Seldom do ideas go into the heads of women, but sometimes... Phew, dude! You're the one who's an idiot. Twitter leftists realise girls are human beings. Exactly. Bless. But, yeah. Quite a sweet, well, sweetish. Quite a sweet little story, that one. But yes, I am very warm. It is very warm in here, so I'm gonna call it there. I probably won't raid over to anywhere because again, warm. But thank you all very much for being here. I hope you enjoyed those two little Russian short stories in true Russian format. Not particularly happy, but you know, you gotta have some Russian melancholy. Chill literacy, more like hot literacy. Yeah, very different vibe that. But yes, thank you all very much for being here. Hope you enjoyed that. Sam, in theory, should be back on Saturday with more weird book. Yeah, we will keep you updated with plans for week, as and when they are formulated. But yes, thank you all very much for being here. Go take care of yourselves. Don't melt. And we shall see you again very soon. Thank you and good night.